I saved the Apache girl from the train, but when night fell, I couldn't resist her. The sun was already low in the sky when the train whistle cut through the desert air. It was a long, sharp sound that echoed across the empty land, bouncing off rocks and dry hills. Most people in the small town had heard that sound all their lives and no longer paid attention to it. But on that evening, one man stopped what he was doing the moment he heard it. His name was Daniel Harper. He was a quiet man in his early 30s, a ranch worker who lived on the edge of town. He had spent most of his life around horses, dust, and long silent days. He was not the kind of man who looked for trouble, and he was not a hero in his own eyes. He simply believed in doing what was right when he saw it. Daniel was fixing a broken fence near the old railway line when he noticed movement ahead. At first, he thought it was an animal. Then he saw a figure stumble near the tracks. It was a woman. She looked small against the wide land, her dark hair loose and moving wildly in the wind. Her clothes were dusty, and she seemed confused, looking back and forth as if she did not know where to run. Daniel felt a strange tightening in his chest. Something was wrong. The train whistle sounded again, closer this time. Daniel dropped his tools and started running. As he got nearer, he saw that the woman was struggling to lift something heavy from the tracks. A large bundle or bag was stuck, and panic showed clearly in her movements. She pulled, slipped, and nearly fell. Her face turned toward the sound of the train and fear filled her eyes. She was Apache. Daniel could tell from her features, her clothing, and the way she carried herself. He had grown up around native families and knew enough to recognize her people. But at that moment, none of that mattered. All he saw was a human life in danger. The ground shook as the train came closer. "Hey!" Daniel shouted, waving his arms. "Leave it! Run!" She heard him and looked up, startled. For a second, she froze. That second felt like a lifetime. The train was coming too fast. Daniel reached her just as she tried one last time to pull the bundle free. Without thinking, he grabbed her arm and pulled her hard. She cried out in shock as they both fell backward onto the gravel beside the tracks. The train rushed past them with a roar so loud it hurt his ears. Dust and wind flew everywhere. Daniel shielded her with his body, pressing himself against the ground until the noise faded and the shaking stopped. For a moment, neither of them moved. When Daniel finally lifted his head, he realized how close they were. She was breathing fast, her chest rising and falling, her eyes wide and dark. Her hand was still gripping his shirt as if she was afraid to let go. "You're safe," he said softly, his voice rough from the dust and the fear. "It's over." She stared at him, not speaking. He wondered if she understood English. Slowly, her grip loosened. She pushed herself up, brushing dirt from her clothes. Her hands were shaking. Daniel stood too, keeping a respectful distance. He noticed the bundle she had tried to save was still on the track, crushed and torn by the train. Whatever it was gone now. "I'm sorry," he said gently, "but you would have been killed." She followed his gaze, then closed her eyes briefly. Pain crossed her face, but she nodded. She finally spoke, her voice low but clear. "I know." There was something in her tone that made Daniel pause, strength mixed with deep sadness. Before he could say anything else, voices shouted from down the line. 2 railway guards were running toward them, clearly angry. "There she is," one of them yelled. "She's the one we warned." The woman stiffened immediately. Fear returned to her eyes, but this time it was different. It was not panic. It was the fear of being trapped. "She didn't do anything wrong," Daniel said quickly, stepping slightly in front of her. "She was trying to get her things off the track." "She shouldn't have been there at all," the guard snapped. "Trespassing, and we told her to move earlier." Daniel looked at the woman. Her jaw was tight, her hands clenched. She said nothing. "She almost died," Daniel said firmly. "That should be enough punishment." The guards exchanged looks. One of them spat on the ground. "Fine," the older one said, "but she better be gone by nightfall." They turned and walked away, still muttering under their breath. When they were gone, silence returned. The desert felt wide and empty again. Daniel turned to her. "You don't have to stay here. I can help you get somewhere safe." She studied him carefully, as if trying to decide whether he was a threat. Finally, she nodded once. "My name is Naya," she said. "I am far from home." Daniel introduced himself. He picked up her remaining belongings and handed them to her. She accepted them with a quiet thank you. They walked away from the tracks together, not too close, not too far. The sun was almost gone now, painting the sky in deep orange and red. Shadows stretched across the land. Daniel wanted to ask her many questions, but he didn't. He could tell she needed space. Still, he felt a strange pull toward her, as if fate had placed them together for a reason he did not yet understand. As they reached the dirt road leading toward town, Naya stopped. "I will not go there," she said, nodding toward the town lights in the distance. "They do not welcome me." Daniel nodded. He knew that was true. "There's an old shelter near my ranch," he said after a moment. "It's simple, but it's safe for the night." She hesitated, then met his eyes. "Only for the night," she said. "Only for the night," he agreed. They walked on as darkness slowly fell. Daniel felt the weight of the day settle on him. He had saved a life, but he knew this was not the end of the story. It was only the beginning. Somewhere deep inside, he felt it clearly. That night would change everything. The walk to Daniel's ranch felt longer than it really was. The dirt road stretched ahead, pale under the rising moon. Crickets began their steady song, and a cool breeze moved through the dry grass. Daniel walked slightly ahead, careful not to make Naya feel trapped. He kept his pace slow, matching hers. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Daniel's mind replayed the moment at the tracks again and again. The sound of the train, the weight of her body when he pulled her away, the fear in her eyes. He had helped people before in small ways, but this felt different. This felt like a line he had crossed without realizing it. Naya, meanwhile, watched everything around her. She noticed how the land changed as they moved away from town, how the air felt calmer, less heavy. She kept her hand close to the small bag she carried. Trust did not come easily to her. Life had taught her that kindness often came with a cost. When they finally reached the ranch, Daniel stopped and turned on a small outdoor light. The place was simple. A small house, a barn, and an old wooden shelter not far from the fence. It had once been used to store feed and tools, but now it stood mostly empty. "That's it," Daniel said, pointing to the shelter. "It's clean. There's water inside. I'll bring you a blanket." Naya looked at the shelter, then at him. "You will not come inside," she said, not unkindly but firmly. "I won't," Daniel replied right away. "I promise." That seemed to ease her a little. She nodded and walked toward the shelter. Daniel watched her go, then turned back toward his house. Inside, he moved quietly, gathering a blanket, a bottle of water, and some bread he had baked earlier that day. He hesitated, then added an apple. When he returned, Naya was standing just inside the shelter doorway. She stiffened when she saw him, but relaxed when he stopped a few steps away and placed the items on a wooden crate. "For you," he said. "If you need anything else, my house is there," he pointed, "but only if you want." She studied him again, as if weighing his words. Finally she spoke. "Thank you, Daniel." Her voice was calm, but something in it sounded tired. He nodded and stepped back. "I'll leave you to rest," he said. As Daniel walked away, he felt a strange pull to look back. He didn't. He forced himself to keep going, reminding himself that respect mattered more than curiosity. That night, sleep did not come easily. Daniel lay on his bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the ranch. The wind, an owl calling somewhere far off. His thoughts kept returning to Naya. Who was she really? What had she lost on the tracks? And why did it feel like their meeting was not an accident? Outside, Naya sat on the floor of the shelter, wrapped in the blanket. The smell of dust and old wood surrounded her. It was not comfortable, but it was safe. That alone meant something. She ate slowly, saving part of the bread for later. Her thoughts drifted back to her journey, the long days of walking, the fear, The feeling of being watched, judged, pushed away. She had learned to survive by staying quiet and moving on, yet today she had nearly lost everything. She closed her eyes and breathed deeply, grounding herself. Daniel Harper had saved her life. That fact stayed with her, heavy and confusing. She did not know him. She did not know his intentions, but she had seen his face when the train passed. That fear had been real. That concern had not been an act. Still, she reminded herself to be careful. Morning came softly, with pale light creeping across the land. Daniel woke early, as he always did. For a moment he forgot about the previous day. Then he remembered everything at once and sat up. He went outside, moving slowly so as not to startle her. The shelter door was open. Naya was sitting on the step, watching the sunrise. Her hair was tied back now and her posture was calm but alert. "Good morning," Daniel said gently. She looked at him and nodded. "You wake early." "Habit," he replied. "Did you sleep okay?" "Yes," she said. It was not entirely true, but she did not feel the need to explain. Daniel hesitated, then said, "I'm going into town later for supplies. If you want, I can help you find a way back to your people, or anywhere you choose." She looked down at her hands. "My people are far, and the way is not safe for me right now." Daniel understood more than she said. "You can stay here another day," he offered. "No one comes out this way much." She looked up sharply. "Why would you do this?" The question was fair. Daniel took a breath. "Because you deserve time to decide your next step. And because I don't like the idea of you being forced to move before you're ready." Naya searched his face. There was no pressure in his eyes, only honesty. "One day," she said slowly, "then I will decide." "That's fine," he replied. The day passed quietly. Daniel worked around the ranch, fixing fences, feeding animals. Naya stayed nearby but kept her distance. Sometimes she watched him, curious despite herself. He worked steadily, without rushing, without looking over his shoulder. It felt peaceful. In the afternoon, the heat grew strong. Daniel brought her more water and left it without a word. Later, he sat on the porch repairing a saddle. After a while, Naya approached. "You live alone," she said. It was not a question. "Yes," Daniel replied, "have for a long time." "Why?" He paused, thinking. "I guess I got used to it." She nodded, as if she understood more than he had said. As evening approached, clouds gathered in the distance. Thunder rolled softly. A storm was coming. "The shelter will not keep the rain out," Daniel said. "You can stay in the house tonight. There's a separate room." Naya hesitated. The memory of past nights made her chest tighten, but the sky darkened and the wind picked up. "Only the room," she said. "Of course." Inside the house, the air felt different, warmer, safer. Daniel showed her the room and stepped away immediately. "If you need anything," he said, "just tell me." The storm arrived quickly. Rain hit the roof hard and thunder shook the walls. Naya sat on the bed, listening. Storms always reminded her how small people were against the world. Later, as the rain softened, she stepped into the hallway. Daniel was sitting at the table, reading by a small lamp. He looked up, surprised. "Everything okay?" "Yes," she said. "The storm, it brings memories." Daniel closed the book. "You can sit if you want." She did. They sat across from each other, the space between them careful and respectful. The lamp cast soft shadows. They talked quietly, about the land, about horses, about the sky, simple things. Yet with each word, the distance between them felt smaller. When silence returned, it was not uncomfortable. That night, as the storm faded, both of them lay awake, aware of each other's presence under the same roof. Nothing improper happened. No lines were crossed. Yet something undeniable had begun. A connection formed not from touch but from understanding, and both of them knew this was no longer just about survival. Morning arrived quietly after the storm. The air felt clean, as if the rain had washed away more than dust. Daniel woke before the sun, listening to the soft sounds of the ranch coming back to life. For a moment, he forgot that someone else was in the house. Then he remembered, and his chest tightened in a way he did not fully understand. He moved carefully, not wanting to disturb Naya. He brewed coffee and stepped outside, letting the cool air steady his thoughts. The sky slowly turned pale gold. Everything looked calm, but inside him, things felt unsettled. Naya woke later, sitting up slowly on the edge of the bed. The room was simple but clean. Nothing about it felt threatening. Still, she took a moment to breathe and remind herself where she was. She had slept better than she expected, though her dreams had been full of movement and sound. Trains, wind, faces she could not fully see. When she stepped into the main room, Daniel was already outside. She watched him through the window for a moment. He was fixing a loose board on the fence, focused, unaware of her gaze. There was something grounding about his presence. He did not rush. He did not act like the world was chasing him. She stepped outside. "Good morning," she said. Daniel turned, surprised, then smiled. "Morning, did you sleep okay?" "Yes," she replied. This time it was true. They shared a simple breakfast. No rush, no heavy talk, just bread, fruit, and quiet company. The silence between them felt different now. It no longer felt like distance. It felt like space they were both respecting. Later, Daniel needed to ride out to check the far fence line. He hesitated before leaving. "I'll be gone a few hours," he said. "You're safe here," Naya nodded. "I know." As he rode away, she stood watching until he disappeared into the land. She told herself she was just being alert, but deep down, she knew there was more to it than that. Left alone, Naya walked around the ranch. She touched the wooden posts, felt the earth under her feet. This land reminded her of home in small ways. Not the same, but familiar enough to bring comfort and pain at the same time. She thought about her journey, the reason she had left, the things she could not return to. The train tracks had not just been a danger, they had been a symbol, a crossing point, a moment where everything could have ended or changed. Daniel returned in the afternoon. The sun was high and heat shimmered across the ground. He looked tired but calm. When he saw Naya sitting near the barn, something inside him eased. "You didn't have to wait," he said. "I wanted to," she replied simply. That answer stayed with him. As the day passed, something shifted between them. They talked more freely now. Not about deep wounds, but about small things. Stories of animals, childhood memories that were safe to share. Daniel told her about growing up on the ranch, about losing his parents early and learning to rely on himself. He did not speak with bitterness, just honesty. Naya listened closely. When she spoke, she chose her words carefully. She spoke of her people in general, of traditions and values, without revealing too much of her own pain. Still, Daniel could hear what she did not say. In the late afternoon, the wind picked up again, though no storm followed. The sky turned soft and orange. Daniel suggested they sit outside before night fell. They sat near the fence, watching the land stretch endlessly before them. The quiet felt deep now, not empty. "There is something I should tell you," Naya said suddenly. Daniel turned to her, giving her his full attention. "You don't have to say anything you're not ready to." "I know," she said. "But I want to." She paused, choosing her words. "I was not just passing through when you found me. I was running from something, from people who did not wish me well." Daniel's jaw tightened, but he stayed calm. "Are they still looking for you?" "I don't know," she answered honestly, "but I cannot stay anywhere too long." He nodded slowly. "If you need to leave, I'll help you prepare." Her eyes searched his face. "You would let me go?" "Yes," he said without hesitation, "because it has to be your choice." That answer surprised her more than anything else he had done. Night came gently. The stars appeared one by one, bright and close in the open sky. Daniel lit a small fire outside, more for warmth than need. They sat across from each other, the flames flickering between them. The fire cast shadows that moved and danced. In that light, everything felt more intense. The quiet, the closeness, the unspoken awareness between them. Daniel felt it strongly now, not just attraction but a pull he could not explain. He reminded himself again and again to stay grounded, to respect her space. He knew the line he could not cross. Naya felt it too. She had felt such things before, but never like this. This was not hunger or fear or loneliness. It was something steadier, something that made her feel seen without being claimed. They talked until the fire burned low. When the night grew colder, Daniel stood. "You can take the room again," he said. "I'll stay out here a while." She nodded, then paused. "You don't have to." "I know," he said, "but I want to." She studied him, then said softly, "You are different from what I expected." He smiled faintly. "So are you." Inside the house, Naya lay awake, listening to the sounds of the night. She could sense Daniel outside, moving occasionally, tending the fire. The thought of him there brought a strange comfort. Daniel sat under the stars, staring up at the sky. He felt torn. Part of him wanted to protect this fragile connection, keep it safe from confusion. Another part feared what would happen when she left. Hours passed. The fire died down. Finally, he went inside, careful and quiet. They slept under the same roof again, separated by walls but connected by awareness. No rules were broken. No promises were made. Yet something powerful had taken shape. By the time morning came, both of them knew the truth. Whatever happened next, there was no turning back to who they had been before. The next morning felt heavier than the ones before. Not because anything bad had happened, but because both of them sensed change coming. The air was quiet, almost tense, as if the land itself was holding its breath. Daniel woke early again. He did his usual chores, but his hands moved slower. His thoughts were not on the animals or the fences. They were on Naya, on the truth she had shared the night before, and on what it meant for both of them. Naya stepped outside after a while. She looked rested, but there was a seriousness in her eyes now. She walked toward Daniel and stopped a few steps away. "I should leave soon," she said. Daniel nodded, though the words hit harder than he expected. "I understand." She watched his face closely. He did not try to stop her. He did not argue. That made her chest tighten in a strange way. "There are people in town who might talk," she continued. "I do not want trouble to come to you." "It already might," Daniel said calmly, "but I can handle that." She looked down. "Still, I do not want to bring problems into your life." Daniel leaned against the fence, choosing his words carefully. "You didn't bring anything. You didn't ask for what happened. You're just trying to move forward." She met his eyes again. "So are you." The truth of that settled between them. Later that morning, Daniel rode into town for supplies. He did not want to leave her alone, but she insisted she would be fine for a short time. As he rode, he felt eyes on him even before he reached the main road. At the general store, the usual quiet chatter stopped when he walked in. A few men glanced at him, then away. Daniel pretended not to notice and collected what he needed. The store owner, an older man who had known Daniel for years, leaned closer. "Word travels fast," he said quietly. Daniel sighed. "I figured. People saw you with the Apache woman," the man continued. "Some don't like it." Daniel met his gaze. "I didn't do anything wrong." The store owner nodded slowly. "I know, but not everyone thinks that way." Outside, Daniel mounted his horse and rode back with a knot in his chest. He had always lived simply, staying out of trouble. Now, without meaning to, he had stepped into something larger. When he returned, he found Naya near the barn, brushing one of the horses. The animal stood calm, trusting her completely. "She likes you," Daniel said. Naya smiled faintly. "Animals know when someone is quiet inside." He hesitated, then told her about town. He did not hide anything. She listened without interrupting. When he finished, she nodded once. "This is why I must go." Daniel felt frustration rise, not at her but at the situation. "You shouldn't have to run because people are narrow-minded." "That is the world we live in," she said gently. "Fighting it does not always bring peace." The rest of the day passed slowly. They worked side by side, fixing small things, sharing quiet moments. Every action felt heavier, knowing it might be one of their last together. As evening approached, two riders appeared in the distance. Daniel noticed them first. His body tensed. "Stay inside," he told Nea softly. She shook her head. "I will not hide." The riders stopped near the fence. One of them was a local deputy. The other was a man Daniel recognized as someone who liked to stir trouble. "We just came to ask a few questions," the deputy said. Daniel stepped forward. "About what?" "About your guest," the other man said, smirking. "People are talking." Nea walked up beside Daniel, standing tall. "You may speak to me directly," she said. The deputy looked surprised but cleared his throat. "There have been complaints. Some folks are uneasy." "Uneasy about what?" Daniel asked. "Someone resting on my land." The deputy hesitated. "It's not illegal, but tensions are high." Nea met the deputy's eyes. "I will be leaving soon. There will be no trouble." The deputy nodded, relieved. "That would be best." When they rode away, silence fell again. Daniel clenched his fists, anger simmering beneath his calm. "I'm sorry," he said. "You shouldn't have been put through that." Nea shook her head. "This is not new to me." That night they sat together one last time near the fire. The flames were smaller now, the warmth softer. Everything felt fragile. "I leave at first light," Nea said. Daniel stared into the fire. "I know. I do not regret staying here," she continued. "You showed me kindness when I needed it most." He looked at her then, really looked. "You showed me something too, reminded me that doing the right thing matters even when it's hard." They sat in silence, the fire crackling gently. There was no dramatic moment. No rushed promises, just two people aware that something meaningful had touched their lives. When the fire burned low, Nea stood. "Good night, Daniel." "Good night," he replied. They went inside, each to their own space. Sleep came slowly. Before dawn, Nea packed quietly. She paused by the door, listening to the house, memorizing its stillness. She stepped outside and waited. Daniel woke moments later as if he had sensed it. He joined her without a word. The sky was just beginning to lighten. "I will walk part of the way," he said. They walked together in silence until the path split. There Nea stopped. "This is far enough," she said. Daniel nodded. His throat felt tight. "Be safe." She hesitated, then reached out and briefly touched his hand. The contact was light, respectful, but full of meaning. "You saved my life," she said softly. "I will not forget." He squeezed her hand once, then let go. She turned and walked away, her figure growing smaller against the wide land. Daniel stood there long after she disappeared from view. He knew things would return to normal in time. But he also knew something inside him had changed forever. Saving her had not just been about that moment on the tracks. It had been about learning what it meant to care deeply and to let go. The land felt quieter after Nea left. Not empty, but changed. Daniel walked back to the ranch alone, each step heavier than the last. The sky was fully awake now, painted in soft colors, yet he barely noticed. His thoughts stayed with the sound of her footsteps fading into the distance. When he reached the house, everything looked the same, but it did not feel the same. The chair where she had sat, the cup she had used, small things carried weight now. Daniel stood still for a long moment, then took a slow breath and began his day. Work had always helped him think. He fixed fences, fed the animals, and cleaned the barn. His body moved on habit, but his mind wandered. He kept asking himself if there was something more he could have done, if letting her go had been the right choice. Deep down, he knew it was. Caring for someone did not mean holding them back. Days passed. Town gossip faded, as gossip always did. People found new things to talk about. The deputy stopped writing out. Life slowly returned to its normal rhythm, but inside Daniel something had shifted. He found himself more aware of the world around him, the way the wind moved through grass, the way silence could speak. At night, he often sat outside and looked at the stars. He thought about Nea walking under the same sky somewhere else. He hoped she was safe. He hoped she had found what she was looking for. Weeks later, a letter arrived. It was unexpected. Daniel rarely received mail. The envelope was simple, with no return address, only his name written carefully. His hands felt unsteady as he opened it. Inside was a short note. She wrote that she had reached a place where she felt safe again, that the journey had been hard, but she had not been alone. She thanked him, not just for saving her life, but for showing her that kindness could exist without demands. She said she would carry that lesson with her. At the end, she wrote one final line: "Some meetings are meant to change us, not to keep us." Daniel read the letter more than once. When he finished, he folded it carefully and placed it in a small wooden box where he kept important things. He did not feel sadness then. He felt peace. Seasons changed. The heat of summer gave way to cooler nights. The land turned softer in color. Daniel continued his work, but he also began helping others more. A neighbor with a broken fence, a traveler needing water. He did not seek praise. He simply acted when he could. People noticed. One evening, the store owner stopped him outside the shop. "You've changed," the man said. Daniel smiled lightly. "Maybe I just see things clearer now." Life did not become a storybook ending. There was no sudden miracle, but there was growth. Daniel learned that real moments did not always stay with us forever, but their impact did. Far away, Naya also carried change within her. She returned to her people stronger than before. She spoke of the journey not with bitterness, but with understanding. She learned that trust could exist without weakness, and that strength did not mean standing alone all the time. Sometimes, when the night was quiet, she remembered the ranch, the open land, and the man who had stepped forward when others turned away. She did not feel regret. She felt gratitude. Years later, Daniel stood once again near the old railway line. The train still passed, loud and fast, unchanged. He watched one rush by, feeling the wind and noise, remembering how close everything had come to ending that day. But it had not ended. It had begun. He turned away from the tracks and walked back toward his life, steady and sure. He knew now that saving someone was not about being a hero. It was about choice, courage, respect. And sometimes about letting someone walk their own path, knowing that, for a brief moment, your paths had crossed for a reason. The desert stretched wide under the open sky, holding countless stories. This was one of them.